Okay, so I'm going to show you some stuff about inserting your work and showing your work on Google Docs. This is a really important part of this unit just because this is going to be how I'm going to make sure that you know what you're doing and all that stuff. You can always just show it on paper and send pictures, but if you're the type of person who likes to type, that's fine, but I want to show you a couple of really important tricks here. So I'm just going to look at this first equation here, and it says find all the zeros of the polynomials, and so that means that we're finding places where the graph crosses the x-axis, finding values of x that make the equation 0. And so that means we're looking at x-intercepts on the graph. And so I have the graph typed in right here, and so I see that two of the answers are 1 and -1. So we can work with those. I'm going to do one that's synthetic division because we just did that today, but then I'm also going to do one that's box method division. So I'm going to start with the box method division, and I'm going to do x plus 1. I'm going to divide f of x by x plus 1. So to do that, I'm going to insert a table. I want it to be 3 tall, and then I'm just going to give myself a lot of space. I don't know how many boxes I'm going to need, but I know that I'm going to need at least some. So I'm also going to center this stuff in the table just because that makes it look a little bit nicer. It's kind of a extra points thing. I'm going to divide by x plus 1. So I'm going to write x and then plus 1 on this side. So that's going to be what I'm dividing by. What I'm dividing is going to go inside the box. So I'm going to highlight this stuff, and I'm going to make the box a little bit thicker so that you can see that that's what's inside the box. And then the top of the box is going to be my f of x. That's going to, or my answer to the division problem. So I'm going to start with x to the 4th. And to get that, I'm going to do insert equation. And that's going to give you this toolbar here, but it's also going to let you just type some nice looking equations. So x, and then if you do shift 6, that gives you an exponent, and then you can do to the 4th. Okay. If I need x to the 4th there, then I'm going to have my x cubed here, which is going to put an x cubed here. I don't want any x cubed, so I need to subtract an x cubed. So minus x cubed right there, which means that I'm going to have a negative x squared here, which means that I need a, let's see, I need a negative x squared there. Notice I'm just inserting equations for all of these parts. That's just going to help me type this stuff out really nicely. I need to subtract another x squared. Okay. And then I need to have a negative x there. So I'm going to make sure that's in an equation, minus x. And so then I'll have a negative x here. But I don't want a negative x, I want 0 x's, so I have to add another x. And then I'm going to put a 1 here, and then I'm going to put a 1 here. And because this matches this, you could maybe even highlight this right here and say, hey, this matches. So that means that I'm done. I can delete these 2 columns now because I'm done with my division. Delete 2 columns. And then I'm just going to highlight these 2 one more time. I think I made it 3 there. Okay, so this is a really nice way of you showing me box method multiplication or division. So I appreciate it if you do that. If you want to use synthetic division, we can do that with the next step. So we use the 0 that said x equals -1 for this division. So now we're going to use x equals 1 as the other division. So again, I'm going to divide the polynomial, but this time I'm dividing this polynomial right here by x equals 1. And so in synthetic division, we're going to put a table again and give myself enough space. Probably 5 boxes is going to be enough. 3 lines is good again. 2. This time I'm going to highlight, and you can just click on them, these 2, because this is kind of how we do our synthetic division. And then we also have a little line going through the synthetic division like that. So we'll do that like that. There. Okay, we put the coefficients of the polynomial along the top. So it's 1, -1, -1, and 1. And again, let's center everything because that'll just make it look better. Okay. I'm dividing by x equals 1, so you put your root here in synthetic division. You add down and you multiply across. You add down and you get 0, and then you multiply across and you get 0. Add down and you get -1. multiply across, you get -1, and then add down and you get 0. And 0 is good, and so I'm going to fill that box with like a, I don't know, some nice color. This is showing me this is my remainder, and this is also showing me this is that I did the division correctly. So two different ways of doing divisions, and I'm just going to type in here, this is box method, and then this is synthetic division. Either way is fine with me. Just remember that I want to be seeing your work, and it's really helpful to me if you have these in a box so that I can actually like read it a little bit easier than you just trying to type it all out. Okay, what am I left with now? Let's rewrite f of x. So down here, I'm going to rewrite f of x. F of x, so I inserted a new equation. It was originally x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 1, right? But I can rewrite it as x plus 1. That was the first factor. The second factor is the one that I got here, which was x minus 1. Remember the factor theorem. Remember that it's a little bit weird with synthetic division. But then what am I left with here? I'm left with, okay, so the last term was -1. So I have my -1 at the end, but then I have no x's, and then I have 1x squared, okay? So this is my equation. Now, this is my function. I don't really even need the 0x squared, so I can delete that. So now I would write in here, zero product property. And then I would write three different equations. 0 equals x plus 1. 0 equals x minus 1. And then 0 equals x squared minus 1. These two, I'm fine if you just give me your answers for this. This one, you need to show me a little work here. So let's just take this one and copy paste it down here. So what do we get? Well, we can rewrite it as if we add 1 to both sides, we'll get 1 equals x squared. So then x squared is, or x is equal to plus or minus. You can do slash PM for plus or minus, and then slash SQRT for square root, and you get plus or minus 1. So the square root of 1 is 1, and so our answers are x equals 1 and x equals -1. Okay, so these are our two answers here, but you'll also notice that we get x equals -1 here, and we'll get x equals 1 here. So if we highlight all of our answers, that's really helpful for me. So highlight 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is good because I have a degree 4 polynomial. The fundamental theorem of algebra says I have 4 answers. And so I have 2 double roots on this problem. I have a double root at x equals 1 and a double root at x equals -1. And that makes sense because of the way that the graph looks too. So a lot of ways to check to make sure your answers work and make sense. And a couple of things about inserting work into Google Docs.